Good evening, everybody. My name is Dina Chacon-Reitzel, and I'm the Executive Director of the New Mexico Beef Council. I really appreciate you asking us to join us in your living rooms and in your offices on the Navajo Nation to kind of talk to you a little bit about what the New Mexico Beef Council does and do a beef cutting demonstration for you this evening. I have been at the New Mexico Beef Council for 34 years, and so it's near and dear to my heart. And I think it's probably one of the most important things that you need to know as producers, because as good as we are beef producers, we have to be able to produce quality beef. And we actually market New Mexico beef and do that through many programs. We do that through many programs. So I thought I'd start by just telling you a little bit about New Mexico Beef Council. The New Mexico Beef Council really is, we're charged with increasing the profitability for producers. And we do that by enhancing and, increasing the demand for beef. And so as I was saying, when the phone went off, that I think it's most important because in beef production, ultimately what you are doing is you're food producers and you're selling and marketing quality products for consumers to eat and enjoy across in the United States and across the world. So I think it's a very important program. The Beef Council is made up of 9 directors that are appointed by the New Mexico Secretary of Agriculture. And it is funded through the beef checkoff as well as a state assessment. So when your cattle, if your cattle are, when you sell your cattle and they're inspected by the New Mexico Livestock Board, they assess that what we call the federal checkoff and then the state assessment. The federal checkoff is mandatory. However, the state assessment is a voluntary program. So those are the funds that we use to be able to increase the demand for beef and enhance profitability for producers. And we do that through a myriad of programs, as I was saying earlier. We do it through food service programs. We do it through retail programs. We do it through health education programs. We have a dietitian on staff. We work with doctors. We work with students in schools, elementary school students. And so we have a wide variety. We obviously don't have time to visit too much about that, but I did want you to know that what we do today really is kind of what we do through our food service education program, where we train college students and culinary students at CNM, at New Mexico State University, and soon SIPI, we hope, to be able to handle our product, learn how to use it, learn how to cut it, learn how to market it, learn how to merchandise it. And so that when they go out in their professional culinary experience and professions, they'll be able to put it on menus and recommend it for their clientele. So today what we're doing is we are doing a cutting demonstration of the round. But I would like to introduce a very important person at this time who will do the beef cutting demonstration. And this is Tom Bertelli to my left. Tom Bertelli has been a meat cutter for over 50 years. He has retail and wholesale experience. He's even owned his own meat processing plant. He's been the center of the plate specialist for several national food service distributors. And he's been our beef specialist for over 25 years at the Beef Council. So he's got a wealth of information. He knows what consumers, through his food service distributor program and career, he knows what food service customers are buying and know what ultimately consumers enjoy. So I think he has a lot to share with you. And so I don't want to belabor my speaking any longer, and I'm going to turn the floor over to Tom so he could show you how to do the beef demonstration on the round. So go ahead, Tom.
Thank you very much. What we're going to be showing you today is a whole beef round. And off of this particular cut, we're going to be doing boning it out and showing you where the different cuts come from. If I may, let me start. First thing I'm doing is I'm taking the shank bone out. This is very, very good. On the retail side, if you go into a grocery store, you'll see a round steak with a bone in it. Oh, that's the bone. So what they do is they cut it on the bandsaw to show you where it comes from. In the food service business, or even now in the retail, they don't want too many bone-in products. So what we're doing here is we're going to break this down even more. This particular piece right here that I'm going to be taking off now, that's called the inside round. And what I'm going to be doing with that is we're going to pull it off. If you happen to go to the grocery store and you see they got a round steak for steak Diane or just a full cut, that's where this comes from right here. The most popular part of this on the food service side is making what we call beef jerky. This is where it comes from.
So Tom,
Go ahead.
maybe we want to talk about, the challenge to the industry and why we're showing them how to cut the round primal and where it comes while you're cutting that.
Right.
If I may, I'll step aside so you can
No.
see our beef cuts chart, and you can see where the round is on the cuts chart. And so if you look over here, it's the back end of the animal, and that's probably the end. It's what we call one of the working muscles. The working muscles is the round and the chuck. And the challenge to the industry, of course, is that we are able to sell the middle meats, the steaks in the middle from the sirloin, loin, and rib very easily. But what we need to do is increase the value of the chuck and the round to be able to sell for a higher price to consumers so we could get greater value out of one carcass. And so Tom wanted to show you how to do this today from the round. And then we're going to have a discussion on the chuck shortly.
Right. Well, the one thing about the round is, and also with the chuck, they're about half of the weight of the animal. Consequently, we have really got to figure out how to merchandise and utilize these particular cuts. Here again, I don't know how many of you are using a round. They're not real popular. If you want to make an oven roast, this is perfect. This is not a pot roast. This is an oven roast. Let me get that question. I don't want to hit your name. So when we do it, we have to take all of this connective tissue and get it off of there. Now, what this is going to yield us is going to be a top round, which I already cut for you. We're also going to come out with what's called an eye round and a bottom round. Now, cut this part. Here again, as we said, this is a lot of weight between the round and the chuck. And so these are items that we're trying to show people how to use, how to use it in different areas. A lot of people will take the round and they'll grind it, which is very good, and make what's called ground round. So if you happen to see a heart doctor and he tells you you've got to have some extra lean meat, these are the cuts that he's going to send to you, have you try. It's going to be the round because it's very lean. It's not going to be as tender as a T-bone steak or New York, nor is it going to be as expensive. So it's nice to have some alternative meats that you can try. Do that right here. Now the eye round that I'm doing for you now, this is very good for cooking purposes. This is an oven roast, not a pot roast, but an oven roast. A lot of the restaurants, if you go in there and you ask for a roast beef sandwich, this is what they're probably going to be giving you. They're going to be trimming it down, getting all that connective tissue off of there. Another Big users of this particular cut is your caterers, because you're going to see when they get through cooking it, it's going to be pretty uniform as far as the size of the meat is. So therefore, they're going to put it on a roll or something like that. It's going to work out perfect. So here's what's called your eye of round. As you can tell, it's pretty uniform and it works out very, very well. What else can you do with this? You can take, and we can show you here. You want to dice it for some stew. It works fine. A little bit expensive stew, but here again, if you're working with people that need to have extra lean meat cuts, it works out perfect right there. So here again, here's some of your stew that you can use right there. Let me get the bottom round for you next. Whoops. Yeah. Okay. As you can tell, it's got a lot of fat and stuff in it. So you have to know how to take it apart and utilize all that. The trimmings that you see I've got here now, we're going to end up having that ground. Now we got extra lean ground beef, which is probably worth around $6 a pound. Regular ground beef is trimmings from all over the animal. Whereas here, this is going to be classified as extra lean, bring back some good value for you on your product. Now, they sell a lot of these on the food service side. If you've ever had cooked corned beef or pastrami, they'll take these particular cuts and then they will marinate them and then cook them. So now this is going to be the bottom round right here. Another nice lean piece of meat, and they can utilize this for roast beef. We can cut it up into some nice kebabs like that, and it works out very, very well. So we're trying to merchandise these products. As Dina mentioned, we work an awful lot with the culinary students. That's our future chefs and stuff. So we have to make sure they know what some of these alternatives are. Okay, let me get rid of that. Now, see that shank bone that I had right there for you? Here's a very popular cut right here. This is going to be a shank, cut about 1 inch thick, crisscross across the shank. Very, very good. Slow cook it. As you can tell, it's got a lot of muscles there, but if you slow cook it, it breaks down. Fantastic flavor. You've also got the marrow in the meat there too. Also gives you some very, very good ideas of doing different things with it. That other piece of meat that I showed you, that was the top round, which I got back here. This is what we sell a lot of it this way. We take that top round, trim all of the fat off of it. Okay, then we chill it. So now once it's chilled, see how nice and thin we are right here. This is for my jerky guys. So yeah, so it's very, very lean, but the jerky guys, this is really the only cut that they like to use because it's very, very lean. If you notice the size, it's a pretty good sized piece of meat there. So when they season it and put it in their dehydrators, it works out perfect. Now I've got one other piece there I'm going to show you. That still comes off of the round. This is the other piece. The round has this piece also attached. And this right here is going to be what's called your sirloin chip. This is very, very good. Excuse me there. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to trim some more of the silver skin off there. If you don't trim that off, it's connective tissue. And boy, you can chew and chew and chew and won't be the best. So what we want to do is break this down Get some more of that fat out there. Here again, this is sirloin. What does that mean? That means it's got a better value to it. So if you go to a high-end restaurant and they're giving you sliced roast beef, more than likely, they're probably going to be using the sirloin. As you can tell, it's very, very lean. And this is an oven roast. So you want to cook it in the oven. Some of the alternatives are, which we're going to do right now, to give you a better value for your round. Okay. We're now going to take this is going to be tender piece of meat. Now bring it over here. Now we're going to show you an alternative. We're now going to be making shish kebab. Why are we going to do that? It's sirloin. We want a better return on your product. So the restaurateur will take the sirloin, and if you notice, they'll advertise on their menus that it is sirloin, and that's what they're using. Lightly season this, put some tomatoes, some onion. I've got one guy that even puts chili on his shish kebab. It's fantastic. But here again, it's to give you a better return on your product. So as you can see, it looks very good. You need about this much meat for a shish kebab. That's probably 3 to 4 ounces of product. Works out great. On a shish kebab, you're probably looking around $15. May serve it with some rice, or they may serve it with a potato and a salad. So here again, to make it real quick for you, this is some of the alternatives that you can do with your round. And as we mentioned, that's one of the areas we're trying to up the sales of the round. The next one, moving on, is you and I want to talk about the chuck.
Yeah, but Tom, I thought I might bring up a good point. I was asking you earlier about when we saw that whole primal, the whole round, you mentioned to me what you had bought it for today's demonstration,
Right.
And how much that would have sold as a baron of beef, what you see in food service often, or when you at a hotel when there's, a wedding or something at a reception and you see the chef carving. Can you tell me the difference in price, what you buy it at and what the food service operator?
If you've been to a large function, we're about to serve about 100 people, they want to buy that whole round, and it's also called a steam chip. And so what they do is they're going to roast that whole piece. As you noticed, I had a sirloin over here. As we cook that, you're going to find out that the sirloin is going to cook faster than the rest of the round. So when you come up, say, I want a piece of meat that's well done, we cut it off the sirloin part. If they're not as particular, we'll slice it off the regular round. So we can meet most of your needs and stuff too on a whole steamship round. They will sell you that in a hotel after you book the conference room and you're going to pay somebody to slice it. They'll probably get about $500 for that piece of meat. And it's very, very good. But like I say, it's for a large group. You can't do that for small groups.
And how much did you pay for it?
We paid $300 for this particular piece of meat. That's wholesale. Here's the other kicker. It's hard to find those. I'm old school, so I know how to get one. Nowadays, everything's done at the meat packer, and you will find out that the meat packers, you won't buy a product with bones in it anymore. They debone the whole animal. So when they send it to the grocery store and stuff like that, it's a boneless product. The reason they do that is you've got to have some expertise to know how to bone it. If you don't have that, what are you going to do with the bone? You're going to have to cook in the back, try to bone it. Forget it. You're going to lose your butt. So the way they do it now is they're going to send it to you. That's what we call steak ready. So that works out really good for you as a consumer because you have more of a good fixed cost on what that's going to be. The other item we were going to talk about was the chuck. That's on the other end of the animal, which is going to be over here. That's the front quarter. That's another slow mover. So what we can do for you on the chuck is we can make you a boneless chuck roast. The most favorite thing with that in the industry is either you're going to make yourself a pot roast at home, or if you're in the restaurant business, you want that chuck and you're going to cook it down, and that's for shredded beef. So when you're going to make some tacos or burritos and you want some shredded beef, the chuck is whereabouts it's going to go. We do have another item that comes off of there, which is called a flat iron steak. It's going to weigh about 1 pound. Very, very hard for us as meat cutters to break it down to that particular cut, but you may find it in some of your updated restaurants. You know, they're trying to sell you something that's new and trendy. There you go. So consequently, we do have some alternatives on the chuck.
So can you tell me, Tom, the difference between the price if you sold it as a roast compared to selling the flat iron price per pound?
The flat iron's probably going to be around $8, but that's like buying a flank steak. If you're familiar with a flank steak, off of this huge carcass, it's only going to weigh 1 pound. So it's very, very pricey thing. It has excellent flavor. Oh, you ever get a chance to try one? Try one. It's got great texture. It's very, very flavorful too. But here again, to find it, your trendy restaurants are featuring it. Other than that, no, it's not going to be as popular out there.
What are some of the other cuts that you could do with a chuck?
Okay, yeah. Another item that we can get off the chuck, and I'm sorry I can't demonstrate it here, but you know, you have a ribeye, which starts right here. That's going to be a ribeye. Well, it doesn't just stop. It slowly progresses into the chuck. So we can get you some nice called chuck eye steaks. Only going to be about 4 or 5, about 3/4 to an inch thick. Guess what? You can get some good money for those. Ribeye steaks probably selling for $12, $15. A chuck eye steak, maybe 10. But if you know what you're looking for, they're good. And it's more cost-effective way of doing it. The reason that hotels don't do that, if they want 150 steaks, ain't going to happen. Take a long time to get that many to get. You as a consumer, yes, you might be able to find them that way.
So
great.
So why is this important to producers is because the beef industry for many, many years has been working on trying to increase the value of our end cuts of the round and the chuck. As Tom mentioned to you, the chuck is about 29% of the meat from the carcass, and the round represents about 20% of the carcass. So that's quite a lot of the animal. If we could learn how to merchandise it differently, as Tom said, as like the flat iron or the chuck eye roll, then you could get more money, more value for that particular carcass instead of having to grind it, which often happens into ground chuck or ground round, as Tom mentioned. So the idea is for us to be innovative. And what we did some years ago was take the entire carcass apart. It was called our muscle profile research. We took the entire carcass apart and did research on each cut so we could know what the features of each cut had, what they had to offer, how tender they were, how they could cook. It was a really extensive program and research project that went on for quite a few years. But what we found out is that, hey, if we want to be able to cut that flat iron out, if we don't leave it as part of the chuck as a roast, we could cut it out and get more value. As Tom said, it's a small muscle, but there are many other what we call value-added cuts that we sell today that we didn't sell before. Same animal, just learning how to cut it differently and merchandise it differently to have a greater value for the carcass. And
one thing I would like to mention too is on grading. you may want to touch on that. Beef gravy.
Sure. So often you go to a store and you'll find, as consumers, you'll find that you'll see prime beef advertised, but it's really, unless you're seeing the USDA beef grading shield advertised in that store, that's not prime beef. And so when you look, it's really important for consumers and for you all, when you're kind of perusing the meat case at your local market, to watch for that and see what kind of beef they're selling. I could tell you, when I started at the Beef Council 30 years ago, there was very little beef that was great. It was mostly select at the large supermarkets. Well, they were going for lean because at that time that was, this huge nutrition craze and people were interested in only having lean meat. But what happened is so many people became disenchanted with it because they'd ask me, why doesn't it taste the same as what we get in restaurants? In restaurants, they're providing choice and prime, which is far different from select. And so we have some resources for you that we would like to show you that are available at the Beef Council. And I'd like to first show you we'll start with the beef price breakdown. And I have this handout for you. It's a nice little brochure. You could request it from the Beef Council. And Sonia Jo will be showing you the inside of that brochure, and I'll kind of explain it a little bit to you. So you have that on your screen. And as I mentioned, if you look at an 1,150 pound steer, it will yield approximately 714 pounds. And then you look at the boxes and you can see which each primal, what it represents in terms of how many pounds for that particular primal. So you'll see we talked about the chuck, that's 29% of the total carcass. And then the round at the far bottom corner of that graphic is the round, which will yield about 155.8 pounds, or 22% of the carcass. And that's why it's so important for us to spend some time in the industry marketing those two end primals. And then you could see, I don't have to read it to you, but you can see what the loin yields, what the rib yields, and so forth. This is a nice brochure, and we give it a lot to people that are merchandising their own beef, for producers that are selling their own beef to consumers, because what we find is consumers think they're going to get a lot more beef if they have to pay, if they pay for the whole carcass, or they really don't understand how much they're going to buy in meat, what it's going to yield for a half a carcass or a quarter. So this really is a nice little piece for you if you're interested in marketing your animals, marketing beef directly to consumers, and we're happy to provide them in any numbers that you wish. Another nice, I think, resource that we have that we think is important to show you today are the grades, as we were talking about. I think Sonia Jo could pull that up. These are all on our website.
Sure. Yeah.
I think I went out of order for you, Sonia Jo. Sorry about that.
Retail cuts chart? No,
Yeah.
that's not it.
No.
Meat value destination.
Mhm. That's okay. Let's talk about that since you have it on the screen. Is that okay?
She's on that one right now.
Okay. So what you're looking at, and I'm sorry that this sort of technical things we're doing today are a little bit new to us and we're learning, but I really thought you might enjoy this diagram because most producers don't realize that we not only sell all of our beef, we sell every bit of it, we sell it domestically, but we also sell a lot internationally. We are the largest exporter of beef in the world. And the Beef Checkoff that funds our program, there's quite a lot of money that goes to marketing our beef internationally through the Beef Checkoff. So I think it's important for me to mention to you how much beef goes internationally. And what's interesting about this diagram is most people don't know particular countries, particular international markets, like particular primals. And so if you look just at the chuck, for example, greater than 14% of the chucks that go in the form of chuck rolls and clods they're marketed worldwide. If you look at the round at the ends, at the end cut that we spoke of today, you'll see that greater than 7% of the rounds go to Mexico and Canada. And if you'll look at some of the others, the rib, for example, 20% of the ribs in the form of ribeye or short ribs, and they go worldwide. So different international markets ask for different primals because they enjoy them and they work them into their own international cuisine. I'd like to show you the next one as well. And this is also in regards to the international market, and it is where we sell our beef variety meats.
Is that title Meat Value Destination?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so what you're looking at is you're looking at a diagram that shows where our beef variety meats are sold. So very little of our variety meats that we produce here in this country, and every carcass is marketed here in this country because we don't eat a lot of it. Now, you'll know, and I know you all know that, the tongue is sometimes consumed in American homes, not that much, but a lot of the tongues that we sell go to Japan and Mexico. Those are the two largest markets, including the lips. So also, when you look at the liver, the heart, the kidney, those go to Egypt, they go to South Africa, they go to South America, to Mexico and Indonesia. And then if you look at the stomach and the intestine, you'll see that most of our stomach and intestines our beef goes to Mexico, Japan, and China. And if you'll note the little box to the right hand, it'll show you what the value of those are. So the tongues, for example, that go to Japan, for one tongue, it's about 1.92 pounds. We get about $18.63 for that tongue, which we would not get that here in the United States. So it's very, very lucrative for the United States and for us as beef producers to be able to sell in the international market. And there are quite a lot of countries that ask for our beef. The Pacific Rim is one of the largest markets for our product, and we sell very, very high quality beef compared to many other countries in the world, and it's really in high demand. So I just thought that would be interesting for you all to see where our cuts and where are the variety meats that go to that we produce in this country. I'd also like to show you the next slide, and that's the beef grades, the understanding beef quality grades. There you go. Thank you, Sonia Jo. So this is what we were talking about a little earlier when we were explaining beef grades. There are three quality beef grades that consumers have a choice to purchase. I mention this to you because often I see that this is misrepresented at meat markets and so forth. They'll say prime beef when it's really not prime beef. And so if you look at that diagram, what you'll notice is the difference in marbling for each of those steaks. So the prime has the most marbling. That means it has more of that the fat, the flecks of fat in there. And so therefore you get better flavor and it cooks up really nice and juicy. Next, you see choice, and choice, of course, is the second. You'll see a few less flecks of fat. And then if you look at USDA Select, that's the leanest cut you could buy. And again, that's all red and very little flecks of fat, or marbling, as we call it, in those steaks. So really, when you're out shopping or when consumers ask you, or you see an advertisement that says prime beef, unless they show that USDA shield that says prime, then it's really not USDA prime. And grading is something that doesn't happen across every carcass in this country. Only generally meat packers will only grade carcasses that will probably grade prime or choice because they have to pay an additional service fee to graders to grade those carcasses. So they don't want to pay to have a carcass that would be probably grade select because that's extra money and they're not going to get the extra price for that particular grade of beef. So they're looking for prime and choice beef, and not all carcasses are graded. I will make the distinction, though, that all carcasses in this country are are inspected for wholesomeness and quality. And that's a whole different seal. It's kind of, they make it with grape juice. You'll see a purple,
I couldn't find.
you'll find a purple seal on it that says graded for wholesomeness and quality. But every carcass that goes through a meat packing plant is graded for quality. If it doesn't meet wholesomeness and quality, if they see some sort of something on the carcass that doesn't look correct, they'll actually condemn that carcass. So there's a difference between quality and wholesomeness inspection and grading. So that's another resource available to you all. And then last but not least, I'd like to show you another, probably one of our most popular resources. It's our beef retail cuts chart. And I think many of you have seen these. We give a lot away. But this is really quite interesting for consumers and producers. And this actually shows all the different primals and all the cuts from each one of them. And I think what's really important to note when you request one or you go to our website, you'll see that it also has the preparation method, how to cook that particular cut, because you want not only, you have to match the preparation method with that particular cut of beef, or you won't be happy with it. So, so it mentions whether it's an arm, a roast that could be roasted, as Tom was saying, or it needs to be braised with some liquid on top of the stove or in an oven, or whether it could be a steak from the rib or loin or sirloin that could be thrown on the grill and you could enjoy it within a few minutes. So it's a popular, very, very popular handout that we give quite a lot of at different functions and different meetings that we attend. All of these resources are available on the website. It's the New Mexico Beef Council website. I think that Sonia Joe may have that for you and bring that up on the screen to show you where you could find us and where you could find this information. So you're looking at our website right now.
Yeah.
And you could go there and you could locate that. You'll see it on your screen under the category of beef consumer. There you go. For consumers, information for consumers. And so you could find this information there. You'll also find quite a lot of other information, not only about the whole program for the beef checkoff, but as well more information for consumers, because we want them to know how to prepare our product. So I invite you to visit the website and poke around and see what you can find. If you have any questions, our contact information is there and you could reach us quite easily. And I think we may have a little time for questions. And so I don't know if you have any questions in the chat, Sonia Joe, or if.
Not yet.
One thing I would like to mention to you is that on the beef grades, you have prime, choice, and select. Select beef is not too readily available. More of the ranchers are finding that if they feed the animal a little bit better, or they have some better genes in there, that they can move up to choice, and that's more value added for the rancher. So we tried to find some select beef for one of our presentations. I couldn't find it, and I know where to go. And everybody's telling me, I said, I can buy choice beef cheaper than I can buy select. So just to let you know what's going on out there.
Yeah. And as I had mentioned, when I first started at Beef Council so many years ago, that's what I found mainly in major supermarkets at Smith's and Albertsons. And now we can't find it there or anywhere. We really had to search and we never did find select. So the better genetics that Tom was talking about is real important. And that comes back to you all, to all producers, because we're trying to find the best genetics for our animals that feed efficiently and don't waste, that don't waste feed on these animals, but they really are able to utilize that feed and produce more meat. So that's kudos to our production industry, beef producers across the country.
Thank you so much, Tom and Dina, for this great
Mikhail, we're happy to take any questions if you all have them, and there aren't any in the chat.
Right. I believe I heard.
Do you
of it.
have any questions for us, Mikhail, or?
I do have a question, but I cut someone off. So I'm not sure who was going to talk. I'll have them talk first, and I can ask my questions later.
Okay,
Hi, this is Marge. It's good to see you, Dina and Tom and Sonia Joe. I just have a question regarding the grass-fed
Yeah.
beef. Will the grass-fed beef make prime
Yeah,
as far as grading?
yes, it will,
It
but it's
will.
gonna take a lot longer to get
Okay.
to the prime element.
so I guess, Marjorie, what you find is, as Tom's saying, it would have to feed a lot longer on grass, and that would be a lot more obviously expensive resources that you would tie up with that particular animal, and then it may not. So I mean, again, even, the best of genetics may not be enough, or you would have to have a lot of grass in our country. We all know that grass is limited resource.
Yes, that is true. Within Northwest area, the grass, the rangeland is very limited.
Yes.
So,
And-
yeah, well, it's good to hear all the information as far as the grading, the cut details, the preparation for cooking, and just you cutting that beef, it made me hungry. I was just thinking,
Marjorie,
we gotta
Good.
stick
I'm
that in
glad
the
you're with
oven
us today,
tonight.
Marjorie. One of the things I'd just like to mention that Marjorie is one of our directors on the New Mexico Beef Council, and we're so proud to have her. And she's an absolutely wonderful member of our council. She is always well prepared at our meetings and attends the events. And she's really a wonderful producer and worker. And I've just enjoyed working with her. So
Yes.
she's brought a lot of value to the New Mexico Beef Council. Thank you, Marjorie, for your question.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing information with the Navajo Sustainable Aquaculture participants. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Marjorie. We're happy to do this.
Thanks, Marge, for that question. If you guys have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself, or better yet, you can insert your questions in the chat box. Loretta, I see you have your mic on. Okay, so I guess, well, since some folks are probably cooking up a question, I do have a question for you guys. So you guys mentioned meats with connection tissues will be tough in chewing it. So for jerky, how do you go about choosing a tender cut with fewer connective tissue, or is it just by cooking it, will it break down that connective tissue?
As I'll show you again, this is the top round, which is this piece right here. We
Right,
have to trim all of that fat and connective tissue off of that particular cut of meat. And then what they do is, that's called the denuded. That's when we take all the fat and the connective tissue off. Then what the jerky guys do is they're going to put this piece of meat, going to weigh about 10, 12 pounds. They're going to put it in their freezers, because when they go to slice it the next day, they want it to be real nice and stable, but they also want to be able to cut it. As you can see right here, that's cut about little less than 1/4 of an inch. If you had a fresh piece of meat and you tried to slice that, it'll wiggle all over you. So the trick to that is, for my jerky guys, is that they chill it and then they slice it very thin. You as a consumer, if you want to do the same thing, do just like I told you. You want to buy the top round. It's also called the inside round. Are you going to find it? Not really. Unless you go to a specialty place that's handling larger pieces of meat. But once you get that and you take all that connective tissue off, it works out very, very well for you as a consumer to make your own jerky. Now, the other thing is too, this is a sirloin tip I showed you. If you notice, it's got some connective tissue and stuff. So what can I do with that? You can chill it and slice it, but slice it very thin like that. You may have a few pieces that are chewable, or whatever you want to call it, where you have to chew it. But the main thing is it's a nice lean piece of meat there. You can also take your eye around it, but if you noticed, that's not as big a round. But guess what? You still chill that and slice it. You're not finding connective tissue on that. So that's another alternative. You can also buy the other piece. It's called the bottom round that we showed you there. And you can also do it. It's all part of the round. Okay. Here again, it's got some connective tissue in it. It's not going to be as tender as the top round, but it's possible for you to be able to use that for jerky.
Okay, so how about going through like a curing process? Do you have like a suggestion on that for like the jerky process?
Okay, I deal with the jerky people. After they've got it sliced this thin, they're going to run it on some trays and they're going to spice it. They either want green chili, they want mesquite, you want black pepper, whatever. They're going to put that on it. But then they go into some large dehydrators. You as a consumer, you can buy the tabletop ones at your house. You're only going to do 3 or 4 pounds. These guys are doing thousands of pounds. So there is a way you can do it for your own use, but it's not all that hard, really. And it's good.
It definitely is good.
Today commercially,
Right.
because it's a high protein snack, and today consumers are really looking for sources of protein that they could eat on the run. And so we do really sell a large amount of beef through our jerky producer, our jerky processors.
Right.
That's awesome.
Any other questions?
If you guys have any questions,
I
feel
hope
free-
you all go home and have yourself a real nice steak or some beef product.
Yes. Thank you. We'll go ahead and say goodnight. We appreciate all you joining us this evening. Thank you for having us, and hopefully we'll be able to do some more programming for you without our telephones.
Thank
Thank
so
you.
much,
Thank
Dee.
you.
Thank you, Tom, for coming on here. And thank you, Sonia. You guys mentioned that you guys haven't done that something like this through webinar, but I'm just gonna say it looks like you guys done such an excellent job of just making a platform like this. I doubt that this is your first time. It doesn't look like your first time.
It's been my first time in several months or a couple of years. since I've
Right.
tried.
Right.
I'm sure Dana and Tom are the brains behind the whole setup of this. Sorry, Sonia. I'm
Well,
just
I- he sure is the brains and the muscle behind it. You had to see how he had to cut that for you all
Oh,
tonight. We
yeah.
sure enjoy it, and we appreciate you all taking time to want to learn and learn more about what the Beef Council does and learn more about beef, and because that's your product.
Thank you. Thank you so much, you guys. Much appreciated. So that will conclude our this evening's presentation. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Dina and Sonia, for coming on here this evening. We really appreciate all this information you've given us. And thank you for sharing a lot of resources that you guys have shared on your website and going through it for us. So it's visually, we like to see where all the resources are located on your website. So much appreciated. You guys are more than willing to stick around, and we're just going to do several announcements. But if not, then thank you. You guys have a good night and much appreciated.
Thank you, Mikhail.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move forward. Let's see, just to let you guys know, a little housekeeping here. Thank you all. I did release a poll, so if you guys would be kind enough to go ahead and answer those questions for us, I would really appreciate it. So such a great presentation, a live presentation as well. So I imagine how hard, how much work it took to working out like the kinks on technology and just to make that live presentation happen. So give them a round of applause and give them a follow on Instagram. I believe they're on Instagram. If not, they're most likely on Facebook. So Loretta, another session will do. Too much information. Yep. Let's eat beef. Yep, exactly. So I know all of you guys are beef producers, and like I said again, thank you for joining us this evening. But for livestock producers, next week we will have bull selection webinar. This will be on Tuesday, April 25th. This is the one that we had a couple weeks ago, but we had the push down. But just to let you know that we are going to be starting this webinar at 5:30 p.m. This will be presented by Marcy Ward. She's the NMSU livestock specialist. So if you head over to our website at nsa.nmsu.edu, you can go ahead and register from there, or you can go ahead and head over to our Facebook page where we'll share the information of the bull selection webinar and the link where you can register at. So just to let you guys know that next week, Tuesday, mark your calendars at 5:30 p.m. We'll have a bull selection webinar. Okay, for those of you that have registered, thank you all for registering. We're working on getting another training set in place. So let you guys know that this is a livestock first aid training that's happening on April 27th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. You guys are going to learn how to use a livestock first aid kit to practice general care to treat infections and injuries. So we're going to have a live demonstration with cattle and sheep and horses and how to give vaccination, developing a vaccine program, and so forth. So thank you all for registering for this event. Maybe some of you have registered, but for those of you that have not, don't worry, because we're working on delivering the next one. So thank you, all of those that have registered. We'll see you soon on April 27th. But that is all I had. I shared you guys what webinar we're going to have next week and what in-person workshops that we're going to have this month. But like I said again, our website is up and running. It's updated. So if you guys just type in this URL right here, and it will lead you to our main platform, which will look like this. And all the tabs from meeting the team to our previous project, our conservation planning program, upcoming events, webinar and workshops. Here we have a lot of presenters share their PowerPoint slides and their publications. So they really work hard on those publications and to make it known for producers to view and perhaps make that as a practice in their operations. So they have their publications on there as well, our newsletters, USDA directories on there as well. And just to let you guys know that we are in collaboration with Diné College Land Grant. We plan on delivering a conservation planning program. Well, we have one. And if you guys are in need of assistance of wanting to develop a conservation plan, feel free to reach out to us. Here's the email at nsaproject@nmsu.edu. And it's also located on our website as well. So under conservation planning program, we have a request form. We have templates that Diné College Land Grant has developed. It's pretty simple. You guys can download it or you can print it off, either way. So if you guys are in need of assistance or just looking for a template, head over to that tab on our website. But you'll find us on Facebook. We have a YouTube channel. This will be uploaded on there, and you guys are more than willing to share that information with your family and friends. If you need to get in contact with us, here's our email. You got Jesse's email, you got my email. And once again, our website's on there at nsa.nmsu.edu. Other than that, thank you all for joining us this evening. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So let's go ahead and get started. Yahtzee, everyone. My name is Mikkel Lantana. I am the field specialist for the Navajo Sustainable Agriculture Project. In short, we call it the NSA project. We are funded by the USDA Outreach and Assistance for Native Farmers and Ranchers. And we also are part of the New Mexico State University Cooperative Extension Service. And we are delivered in collaboration with multiple workshops and webinars with the Nate College Land Grant Office. You see their logos on all of our webinars and workshop flyers. So we collaborate with them with all sorts of livestock, training and conservation planning and so forth. And we also are in really great connection with community outreach and patient empowerment. You probably see their food specialist, Miss Palmer. She gave a lot of presentations on gardening aspects of things. So she's a great help. And so let's go ahead and move forward to the next slide. So going straight into our goals of the NSA project is mainly to help producers improve their operations, profitability, and sustainability through our educational programs and technical assistance in areas that we serve in McKinley, San Juan, and Cibola counties. So to expand on the educational programs aspect side of things, we provide weekly presentations such as this, and we alternate them every week, starting from livestock back to gardening and crops and so forth. And we also host a lot of in-person workshops with our project partners, from soil surveying to herd health, conservation planning, and this upcoming event that we have in person will be the livestock first aid training. So we also provide USDA resource fairs, gathering local field reps to share local programs that there is to offer for local producers to help our producers increase their knowledge to access available programs from NRCS, FSA, rural development, and risk management agencies and programs and services, And last but not least, through our gardening programs, increase the local production and consumption of fresh fruits and vegetables and healthy foods by Navajo families and individuals.